Hello all. Let me just have a introduce myself very quickly. I am Prabhu Mani. I am working as a senior consultant in Faber Infinite Consulting. Here we are going to talk about a simple but a very powerful continuous improvement tool, the value stream mapping. If your company is opting out to be going for the lean manufacturing methodologies, then I would say that this is the first step where the tool should be utilized to know where you are currently standing at. This tool is very simple, but it gives you all the details about your process. Let us have just a quick view about what is this tool. But before that, I would like to just walk you through the scenario of what the manufacturing industry is actually facing right now. This tool is actually invented in the manufacturing sector to support their process. So it is very wise to talk about this in the manufacturing sector to start with. In current scenario, in the current market trend, if you could see that the manufacturing industries are really vulnerable to the high competitiveness which is created by their competitors. So like for instance, I could tell you that if I am ready to give the product A for this same price and your competitors are about to give them for X minus 1 price, and your services is also evaluated, so how much quick you give the service, that much you are able to survive in the market. So in order to do that, each and every organization should be having a certain strategies to tackle this in order to survive in this market and to be a leader of the industry. Each and every organization should be having a strategies, or even you can tell it as a methodologies, which we need to be focusing on. One such thing could be that if I wanted to be a leader, I should be knowing how to handle my cost of operational, and then I should also be know how to improve my efficiency. It is just not the efficiency of your line, it is just entire efficiency of your organization. So once you know how to do this, or once you know that you can find a solution how to do these things, then I think that you can have a good lean transformation in your organization, which will strive you to be the leader of the market. So in order to do that, there is one special tool which we are going to talk about today, the value stream mapping. It is acronymed as VSM, where the name itself implies that you are going to map the entire value and value stream of it. So we'll talk about what is value and what is value stream and what is value stream mapping. First, value. See, when in an organization, definitely there is a customer where the customer is willing to pay you for something where he gets value of that. Means like if he is asking you for product and that product has more value added in that, then he is happy to pay for that. So this is what it is called as value. And what is called as value stream? It is very simple. The set of instructions, or maybe you can tell it as to create that value, what are all the process, what are all the resources we are going to use, and what we are having creating value out of it. That is what it is called as value stream mapping. To simply put it in other words, we could tell that you should be knowing how your value is flowing through your organization. Means how it is starting, where the informations are flowing, how the material is flowing, from where to where the process is happening. So this is what it is all called about value stream and map. As you say, It is a pictorial representation. It is going to give you a graphical view of how your value is going to flow in your value stream. So to put together, it is a value which is flowing through this value stream, and representing it in a pictorial way is called value stream mapping. Now, we know what is value stream mapping. And now we are talking about this tool. We are trying to tell that if you just implement this in your company, you will be kickstarting your lean transformation. But I just want to take you through the brief history of this tool. It would be wise enough to know about the history of the tool, how it has been evolved around in the years, so that it will be easy for people to implement. This tool is actually invented in the mid of 20th century. It was actually used by this Toyota Motor Corporation engineers when they really had a problem in their organizations, like they are unable to solve the production processes issues in their assembly line. So when they started this tool, they have planned to collect all the data, and then they have mapped their information and the material flow. So when I say that information and material flow, it is from the customer end again back to the customer end. Means like how the information is starting from the customer, what he is actually wants, which we call it as value, and how the information is flowed through the various functions of the organization, and then how it reaches the production, how the production is made, from where it is called as a material flow, and when it is done, then how it is going through the final stage is reaching to the customer. So the engineers of Toyota Motor Corporation has actually planned to do the same. When they say that this is the process I'm going to deal about, means like they are focusing on the assembly lines. They started to map their information flow and the material flow. So the name arrived initially, before we call it as a value stream mapping, in those days, it was called as material and information flow mapping. So in 1990s, these Western companies have actually started to use this tool very vastly to solve their problems related to their productions. And then now, if you could see that, if you could see, it is everywhere in this world, not only related to manufacturing, it is also related to every other industry. It has been customized to fit in every organization. So I would tell that if we could have this tool in your organization, I'm pretty sure that it can be having a good lean transformation. It could kickstart your lean transformation with this tool. Then I think it could succeed you in as per achieving your business goals. Fine. Now we know about the tool. We know what is value stream mapping. We have just talked about the history. Now we will get into how we are going to implement the same in your organization. There are several steps we should be followed, but as I said, that issue. So when I was talking about this tool, like it is customizable as per the industry. I would tell that these are all the steps which you should be following it, but there may be some steps which doesn't needs to be followed, but there are some steps which must be followed. But I'm going to talk about the generic steps which we need to be implementing, using to implement in the, when you're going to implement it in your organization. So when I start with, always you should be doing this as a team. It is not a single person activity where you can sit and do by yourself. So first you need to form a team. You need to have a cross-functional team from various departments. Then, as we were talking earlier, we should be having the value, means what your customer is actually wanting you to do. You should be mapping it. You should know what your customer wants, when he wants, how much he wants. Then once you do this, you will be knowing that the next step is to plot all the value stream which is required to do this value. As I was telling, what equipment you need, what resources you need. So once you know all these things, now the real time is that you need to hit the Gemba. Go there. It is not a tool where you can just sit in your room and do it by yourself. It is a tool where you should use your paper and pencil to plot this. You should hit the Gemba, collect all the relevant data, whichever it is related to your value stream. Means whether it is what equipment, what process, about the operators. Once you know all these things, now you have to plot the graph, and then you have to add all the operational timelines or the data whichever you have collected from the Gemba. For instance, if I could tell you that you should be knowing what is the exact cycle time of the process, you should know the changeover time of it, you should talk about the efficiency of the equipment. So once you know all these things, then it is you should be plotting the timelines, you should be estimating the timelines out of it, and you should be plotting this. So what is this timeline? Timeline is something which I'm talking about the value added activities and the non value added activities. Means like your cycle time is directly going to add value to the product, where it is going to convert your raw material to the finished goods. But there are intermediate stages where you are going to transport it, or whether your machine is going to wait for the second operation to be completed. So all these are considered as a non-value added or waste, where it should be derived in terms of time, which is measured in terms of days, and then those timelines are also plotted. After you do this, now you have a pictorial representation in front of you about the entire process of an organization from the starting to the end, where it is talking about how much is your value added activity and how much is your non value added activity, which we call it as a value added ratio or a material velocity ratio. Once you know that, you should be working on to improve that value added ratio. The higher the value added ratio, the good your company is. So now, when you have this pictorial representation in front of you, it is very obvious that now you and your team sit together and brainstorm that what has actually going wrong. You could see that where the actual process is having a bottleneck. Now the entire team's work is to debottleneck those processes, identify those wastes, eliminate those wastes, and create an action plan to eliminate those wastes. So this will be the pre-final step. And in the final step, it will be that you are going to find a way to eliminate all these activities, which we call it as a case and bust. So once you know what is your action plan, the next step would be that you should be interpreting all these data and you should be completing it. Now, when I talk about that, let me just give you the benefits of what this tool can bring you. I have almost covered it in the tool steps itself. But when I wanted to talk about this, the benefits which the tool could bring you is that it is not limited to, but I would be trying to specifically explain you the major benefits of it. First of all, as you're working as a team, it involves all your employees and which improves your team's collaboration. A problem can be solved when your team has been united. So this is one of the major improvement which you could give. And the tangible benefits, it could be like it reduces your product's lead time. Secondly, it focuses on your process, particularly a certain process, where you can focus on that process and you can debottleneck that process and you could improve that process. So your process focus will be improved. And next, you could talk about eliminating the non-value added activities. Means that it is going to give you the fruitful by improving your value added activities. So your customer is going to be very happy with that. So these are all the major benefits which I'm trying to talk about getting out of this value stream mapping. And I would like to give you some tips of it. So if you wanted to get succeed in using this tool, I would very particularly trying to talk about the three things which you should be following it. As I said, when you need to form a team, you should know which team you should be using. So right people will give you the right solution. So number one, it stands that you should be identifying the right team to work on with. The second thing is that once you do all these things, you should be deploying a value stream mapping manager where you can make accountable of him so that he will be driving this activities throughout the organization. This activity can last for 2 to 5 days, but it depends on the process. So it will be accountable by this value stream manager. Always he will be following the people to get it. And the third thing is that whenever we are plotting this map, I would always suggest that we should go in a backwards, means you should be starting from the customer end. Once you start from the customer end, you will be deriving it backwards. Like you will know what your customer requires. So in order to do that, you will be knowing what are all the pre-steps it is required. So once you know how your pre-steps are going to be deployed, so you could see that inherently the branches of your flow could be easily visible when you're plotting this. So to be successful in these, I think you should be following all these three things. Finally, I would like to talk about which value stream mapping you should be using. Means there are three different types of value stream mapping. First, it is a process value stream mapping. You're going to focus only on the one process. Means, for instance, if I could tell you, like, if there is an organization which has a process of machining and assembly, and you know very particularly that your assembly line is creating a problem for you, then you are going to focus only on the assembly line. So you will be using this process value stream mapping tool where it is going to only focus on your assembly line. The second is that you are going to talk about your organization value stream mapping. Means this is a value stream mapping where it has been often used by all the manufacturing industries, or almost I could say. Like it is a door-to-door value stream mapping. Means like you're going to start from the customer order, and again you're going to pass through the suppliers, you're going to pass through the production planning, production process, and again it is going to reach the waiting arms of the customer for the dispatch. And the third one is all about enterprise value mapping. So this value stream mapping, I'm going to tell that it is used between the plants or among the plants, where if you are having 2-3 plants we are going to talk about, then this is what it is going to be used. So I hope I have covered much of the topic, and I'm just closing it right now, and I'm just waiting for your question and answers. Okay, so a person has asked me to give an example of what VSM is. Okay, fine. When I talk about that, I'm particularly talking about this manufacturing industry. Let me take a pen manufacturing company. So when you talk about this pen manufacturing company, there may be n number of varieties. For instance, if I talk about a Reynolds manufacturing company, he may be having a pen ranges from 5 rupees to 50 rupees. So now we can tell that which value we should talk about and which value stream we need to talk about. So I know very well that I'm having a high volume in 5 rupees manufacturing pen. Means I am focusing my profit or my organization's value depends majorly on this 5 rupees pen. So I will be collecting the data, plotting from the customer order, how the customer order has been received. Whether am I receiving it for every week, or whether am I receiving it for every month or early. So based on this forecast or based on this schedule, you will be plotting how the planning team is going to do this and bifurcate that plan to the production team, whether it is again going to be a daily schedule or a weekly schedule or a monthly schedule. Again, they are going to give the same plan to the purchasing department to get the same raw material from their vendors. And now, for instance, when I consider pen manufacturing, we could tell hardly that there are four process where you are going to do it. One will be that assembling of the refill with the nib, and second will be the assembling of the pen entirely. So you will be mapping these two things. Once you do this, you will be identifying that between these process, how much lead time I'm having to take across. For instance, if I just assemble a cap, I will be taking 2 seconds or maybe 3 seconds to assemble this cap. That is your value added time. But in order to bring the cap from one point to other point, it is taking you 1 minute, for instance, which is called as a motion time or a transportation of this time. So that is actually waste. So you need to be trying to eliminate this. So you will be having a pictorial representation of what is your value added and non-value added out of this. So I hope I have answered you this question. From each process. Yeah. So a good question has been asked actually. So do we need to update this value stream mapping? The answer is yes and no. So it's like when there is no changes in your process, when you know about that there is no changes happening in your process, I would say that it is not required for you to revisit this mapping. But whenever there is a change, the frequency can be decided whenever there is a change in your organization. So it should be done as soon as you receive the changes. So I would tell you in a brief that when there is a no change, I would hardly tell you to visit for a yearly once. But when there is a change, you should be frequently visiting it. Whenever there is a change, immediately update this after the changes has been occurred. Okay, so thank you for it. I had a good session with you. I hope I have answered your questions. Thank you.